Well, let's take you to the House of Parliament, where the Interior Minister, Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak, is addressing the House.
We're just in a meeting, and we're insisting that despite all these additions, the price should not be still very high, looking at the numbers that we are talking about. Are you going to allow over 400,000 people to go and do medicals when you know you have space for only 5,000? How fair are you to the people? So you need to devise a method where you slow down the number and have some reasonable number. So the pass mark was put at 65, because that was what they were told before they even started the exams. So at 65, as we speak, we still have 105,000 that have qualified for medicals, when in actual sense, the total number that we can now take after medicals is 5,000. So we still have a huge challenge. But guess what? The President instructed that, look, those who qualify and pass medicals, let's keep the data. This is the first phase. We are hoping that maybe later in the, because remember this current recruitment that we are doing is a 2025 recruitment. Hopefully when we are out of the IMF, we could do the 2026. So we'll pick from that same data. Hopefully, if maybe it's past 6 months, then you can only ask them to repeat medicals, but not to start opening the process all over again. So, fellow citizens, I've heard so much criticism and why this, why that, and I told people, let's assume that I said that, look, without maybe a very bad example, we are going to receive this recruitment to only media people. Let's say there are only media people who will be recruited. You and I know from the length and breadth of our country, the media people we have is more, they are more than 5,000. What criteria are you going to use to get 5,000 out of that more than 5,000? Definitely you have to develop something that will help. You may talk about how fair the thing is or how unfair it is, but what method are you going to use as a way of not using human interference? So that I look at you and say, okay, you can go. You are too short, you can't go. You are too fair, you can't go. That one is too tall. I mean, so you have to use a system that is devoid of human interference to enable the system to carry you to that end. Yes, I know the disappointment. I know the difficulty. But the issue is about joblessness and not issue about the security. And you, all of us know, you want to get a professional police officer. You want to get a professional immigration officer. You just don't want any person who will go in. I mean, I'm sorry to say this. We are having a challenge with people with mental issues in the service. You have people with drug issues in the service. All these things are things that you use, and through that, some people will fall along the way to enable you get, someone said, about the best of best. So I know a lot of young people may be disappointed, but they should exercise restraint. This is not going to be the first and last recruitment that the government is going to be having. We are going to make sure that at least, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has said it, as the economy improves, many more will be taken into the executive service. Currently, the police force that we have, the number that we have, just as I mentioned, 49,000 plus, immigration about 18,000 plus, fire about 17,000 plus, prisons about 14,000 plus, narcotics control about 3,000 plus. When you put all of them together, they are less than 100,000. They are less than 100,000. But even that, the wage bill on them is about 13 billion. So if the resources were there, I mean, I would have been the happiest person if we were able to recruit about 500,000 more security people. But let's be practical. Will our economy be able to absorb that? We all know that practically that is not possible. If you have a police of 50,000, can you really take 130,000 and add to an existing 49,000? So this is where we find ourselves, and I want to plead with the rank and file of our youth to appreciate that. That's why we introduce a number of other measures that we are hoping into the future may even help us as a way of screening them. You remember the police assistant that we did? We took 15,000 under the youth employment, what do you call it, model, to be assisting the police, what we call the Zoom police. We took 15,000. With fire, we took 5,000 to assist the fire officers in the market. And then with prison, 5,000. That alone was 25,000. That is 5 times what we are doing into the mainstream. And our hope is that as they work with the police, they work with fire, they work with prisons, they get to know the job so that the next recruitment we may be able to prioritize them because now they know how the job is. And we have also gotten the opportunity to work with them and even know their character, their behavior, their strength, and their weakness. So we want to assure them we'll continue to open many more opportunities for the young people, but we cannot use one recruitment exercise to solve all this problem. So I want to thank you so much for this opportunity to have given you this brief information. Yes. Yes.
Our Minister, what role?
Let this person. Yes. You raise your hand and now. Yes. Yes.
So you knew that you had only a target of 5,000.
Yeah.
From across.
Yeah.
But the systems you deployed gave the opportunity for people who had applied well to the tune of over 500,000. That is a concern of the people that if indeed you knew the target was 5,000, why would you not limit the system you put in charge to accommodate just a little above the 5,000 so you are able to...
I don't like this question. So how could I have done that? So maybe I'll just say that Upper East, I'll allow only maybe 100. And I'll say Upper West, I'll allow, look based on your population, I'll allow only 120. How will that create a fair opportunity for everybody? So fairness and equity is so key that you open the system so that everybody has opportunity to apply. And if we had said, for example, we are opening the portal for 1 day, I want to believe that everybody will have said that, look, this is deliberate, you will have your list already, that is why you are shutting down on innocent young people, so give everybody equal opportunity. But believe me, the data we have, for me, is a very rich data. And I've taken the opportunity to show that to His Excellency. I said that, look, it is telling us a lot more. Because, for example, I checked from the portal, graduates alone who applied were 75,000. Graduates alone, 75,000. Those with SS qualification, 330,000. So it is giving you an indication of the kind of challenge that confronts you. So instead of looking at it as a disadvantage, you look at this as a strength to help you to manage your system. But you cannot use one recruitment process to deal with all this, knowing the kind of economy that we inherited and the challenges that we inherited. And I know some of the thing is that people were saying that, oh, the previous administration, people didn't even have to go through any process. But all of us consider that as an unfair process. That a process that people, it was not meritorious. And in the NDC manifesto itself, is re-emphasized that recruitment will be based on merit. So that is the reason, because we wanted to create a fair and equitable system. So you couldn't have picked and choose, but to allow all those who may want to come in to come in. Yes. Yes.
Also related to the very point in the last few hours, particular supporters of the NDC are mentioning you and saying that you are disappointed. How do you respond to that? Also, there are those who say that when their water display pending, almost all of them.
Well, I mean, let me deal with the first one. I'm sorry, and all I'll say to our rank and file is that let's keep hope alive. Remember that when we were doing the police support, those assistants to the police, to the fire, to the immigration and others, not a single person went for an interview. And that was 25,000. That was taken through the Youth Employment Agency. And I want to believe that they are largely the rank and file of our party. There are so many other opportunities that we are opening. But I want to believe that all of us are very conversant with our neighboring countries. Without mentioning any specific country, you hear gunshot and you see the military and the police are those in those countries who are taking the lead in running away from hearing gunshots. Why? They are not well prepared for the job. All of us want to get professional and very, competent. And I want to believe that there are many of such within the rank and file of the party. So I want to plead with the youth that, for example, if we had even decided, let's say, oh, this recruitment, we're going to give it to only NDC pooling agents. Let us assume that we are going to ignore all other Ghanaians and say that, look, we are here, we will take only our party people, and we are going to take only our polling agents. The last election, when we finished, the polling agents were over 100,000. Because the agents that we have were about 110,000. Let's assume a quarter of them were only interested in the security service. So that's 25,000. Which method are we going to take 5,000 out of that 25,000? You surely have to then develop something. Because even if you are going to receive to only your party people, you should still have a mechanism where you go to be able to extract the 5,000. So, yes, those disappointments may be genuine, but I want to believe that we will continue to work very hard to create other opportunities that will be easier to give than just use one recruitment and try to think that you can use it to solve all the problems at once. And then the issue about why you were saying that there were a lot of pending, and then all of a sudden, all the pending moved from pending to disqualification. Well, it's a IT system that is being run. I cannot authenticate what you are saying, but all I know is that the last resource, because they had category A, B, C. The category A were these tradesmen, those who came with city and girls and those things. Then the category B, I believe, were the graduates or so. And then the C were those with the SS. So they reduced the resource in phases. But because of the share numbers, I mean, obviously, if you have about 480 going to write an exam, and you are ending up with about 105 moving to the next level, you have a gap of almost over 300,000. Naturally, it will sound as if everybody is failing, because it's like almost like 1 in 5. But you are trying to tailor the thing towards the end that it is manageable. Other than that, the next stage, I mean, we could have just said that, look, anybody who wrote the aptitude test, go and do medicals. What we will simply do with the greater respect, we will have just created business for the laboratories. They will take the money when you know. You see, when we opened the portal, we didn't know the number. Now we know, well, we didn't know how many people will come in. Now we know how many have come in, and we know how many we are taking. So if you don't manage it, you'll be creating more chaos as we move forward. Yes.
Prime Minister, I just spoke with somebody who has been disqualified, and she was asking me if I know somebody who can help her. Why? She believes protocol is working because she knows somebody who answered only 3 questions and passed. She answered 20 questions. She has been failed. And they spoke to somebody who is willing to help. Somebody has paid, and the person has gotten, they are demanding 20,000. Who is responsible? He said they were told by one officer that there was somebody who is in charge. What role is protocol playing in this?
I'll be most grateful if you give us details of this information. Yeah. We'll go and arrest that person. Yes. Because so far as we are concerned, nobody has hand in this. So if somebody like this lady, let her come forward to tell me that, look, I wrote the exam with Muntaka, because the thing is individual. Your camera is on you. Come and tell me that Muntaka answered only 2 questions. We can pull his information and see. Did he really answer 2 questions and pass? While she answered 20 and failed, we can pull those data. If they said that somebody was told that somebody had paid money to somebody, we need to know that somebody. Because you see, since we started this process, I've told you a number of times, we've done I think about 5 arrests. In fact, the 5th one was prison officers, 2 prison officers who were apprehended. And they are now being investigated. We are taking them through the due process. We are firm. Because it's a human institution, I cannot stand here and play God and play angel that nobody is doing anything. That's why I say, if you hear anything, if you see anything, let us know. And we are working with NIB, National Signal Bureau, we are working with National Investigative Bureau, we are working with Police Intelligence Department, we are working with the CID. We are putting all our arsenal to make sure that nobody takes advantage of any youth in this process. So if somebody says somebody can pay money to somebody, let us know, and you see whether we act or not. Yes. Yeah.
Especially your police MPs, they raise the issue that the age limit will not favor their party people. I've never heard you responding to some of these allegations. How are you?
Well, I mean, like I've said, without time, without number, I really wish that we could have a way of doing this without hurting anybody here. I really wish that we had a way of absorbing all the over 500,000 Ghanaians who have shown interest. But we all know that that is not practical. And to be able to do this, definitely, you have to go through a process that painfully painfully, some will have to fall along. But I can bet you that we are acting in the best national interest. We are acting to make sure that the right people get in. We'll continue to do the very best that we can, as much as possible. But this is the practical reality that comforts us. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank
They
you.
are concerned that qualified applicants within the Northeast and then the Savannah region are being directed to go do their medicals in some instances. So if there could be some opportunity.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I know is that in the time past, I'm happy you raised this, in the time past, all medicals were done in Accra. All medicals. Wherever where you are, you have to come to Accra. I insisted that, look, can we send the medical centers closer to the people? So I don't want a situation where you just choose one or two places and then they try to cluster. So for example, they put maybe Western, Central. I think this was when they were giving us briefing this morning, myself and my deputy, they say Western and Central are being done in certain locations. So they've done the clustering. At least it's an improvement upon the last time where everybody has to come to Accra. Our hope is that maybe by the next time we'll be doing this, it should be able to do it in every regional capital. Our even hope is that if it is possible to do it at every district capital so that nobody has to incur so much cost in trying to get to the center to do anything. You saw that the screening, we did it in all the regional capitals. The medicals, our wish would have been to do the same, but they had to cluster some of them for the ease, because you know some of the facilities that you require are not in some of the regional capitals. Even where they have personnel and other things were challenged. So we accepted, okay, do the cluster this time. Next time around, we'll have to ensure that we are able to go to every region. So those who may be complaining, we are sorry, but at least it's better than coming to Accra. But we want to even make it better next time. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We've been listening to the Minister for the Interior, Mohammed Muntaka Mubarak, who has been providing some update on the recent security recruitment. He says over 500,000 persons applied for 5,000 available slots, and disputed claims that what we usually term as protocol was brought to bear during that, and said that if you have any evidence of somebody saying that they are offering protocol slots in the security services, bring it to his attention and he will ensure that their arrests are effected. Let's stay a while in Parliament and talk about the Majority Chief Whip, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamakpo, who has described Minority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin as an obstructionist who has on several occasions attempted to impede the smooth progress of parliamentary business, citing the December 9th incident when chaos erupted on the floor as the minority sought to block the approval of several budgetary estimates. Roxanne Nelson Dafiamakpo argued that the minority leader cannot now present himself as an innocent actor in the House.
Now, if you recall the events of 9th December 2025, we had advertised as many as 31 committee reports to take towards passage of appropriation. The minority leader wouldn't allow government business to be conducted. You saw the proceedings that day. But as the majority, we did not react in the manner that he wanted us to. We kept them at bay and did our business. So if he tells the whole world that he's not been an obstructive leader, I beg to differ. He's obstructed business before, to the glare of everyone. So this critique of the majority by him that we overshadow them, we intimidate them, is neither here nor there. When it comes to government business, we seek consensus. That is why Speaker may have to come and speak to that. We hold conclave. When we hold conclave before we sit every day, is to agree, is to build consensus. So when we build consensus and agree on things to do, and you come and surprise me on the floor, you think that if I had led my battalion to react in the manner that he wanted, we couldn't have passed all the 29 reports, committee reports, and eventually pass appropriation. We knew that we had business to do, as it were. So, like we say in the local parlance, whilst you are cautioning the cats, you must also caution the fry fish, to also exercise restraint and not to intimidate and taunt the cats.
That's the Majority Chief Whip, Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekwa, who has also responded to claims by the Minority Leader that there is a deliberate scheme within Parliament to stifle the voice of the MPP caucus. And speaking at the same event, Alexander Afenyo-Markin insisted that several motions filed by the minority have remained unattended to for months, despite repeated appearances on the order paper.
This posture of the majority, in my respectful view, is illustrative of a broader trend where the numerical dominance can sometimes translate into disproportionate control over institutional representation. When agreed formula for representation are set aside, the minority loses the ability to effectively contribute, scrutinize, and represent alternative perspectives at key regional fora. Now let me deal with motions. One of the critical functions of Parliament is to allow members to raise matters of public importance, questions, decisions, and hold government to account through motions. Yet in practice, some of the minority's motions, though formally advertised, have still not been taken up for debate in the House. A typical example is the motion on mass dismissal of Ghanaian workers when this party came into office. There was a letter from the Chief of Staff directing that recruitment that took place after the election should be terminated. However, state agencies decided to go back to 2017-18. People who have been in the employ of state-owned institutions, not just the civil service, since 2018, were sacked. Attempt to bring this matter to the public space remains frustrated. The first was a preliminary objection by the majority leader, and when we filed an appeal, though the appeal motion was allowed, but the debate is still in abeyance. The motion was moved, seconded, and one contributor was taken. It's been 8 months. It always appears on the order paper. We are unable to take it. Why?
Let's bring in our resident Parliamentary Affairs correspondent, Kweku Asante, for more. Kweku, how did Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekwa respond to the minority leader's claim that there is a deliberate attempt to silence the MPP caucus in Parliament? Kweku, can you hear me? Right, we're trying to establish connection with our resident correspondent in Parliament, Kweku Asante, to bring us up to speed with events happening in the House of Legislature there. Kweku, let me try one more time. Can you hear me? Right, unfortunately, we do not have Kweku Asante on the line.
It relates to this question about the motion that has been put before the House on the mass dismissal of workers, in the words of Alexander Afenyo-Markin. Roxanne Nelson Dafiamekwa says the majority or the Speaker cannot be blamed if the minority will file a motion and refuse to follow up. According to him, this is purely a private business in the House, and if the minority are so minded to press on that, they can get something out of it instead of sitting back and expecting that the majority side will just lead them on that business. Listen to him.
If you neglect your duty, it's not my duty to ensure that your private business is done. So you cannot fault the majority side for the pendency of your motion that is ably been moved by you and ably seconded. You can't fault me, you can't fault my leader, you can't fault the House. Because it's a private member's motion, and as a private person who sponsored the motion, it was your duty to ensure that the debates continues as it is. So as I speak, the motion, the debate continues as we capture it in the order paper. So it is duty to make sure that is carried. And more particularly because he's also a member of the business committee. Business committee arranges business for the House. He's a prominent member. And that is why he ensures that every time, for every week, that motion is advertised. But if you don't pursue it on the floor, it is not my business, it's your business. That's why it's a private member's motion. So that is my reaction to that in that regard. Now, if you recall the events of 9th December 2025.
Our resident correspondent in Parliament, Kweku Asante, is still with me. Kweku, what else is happening on the floor today?
Well, Ken, there's been a lot of events on the sidelines of Parliament today where so many things happening. There was that event on the Pan-African Parliament issues that have come up, which we've just given to you. But there's also a women event happening on the back of the International Women's Day that happened over the weekend. That is also happening. Parliament itself just started sitting moments ago. The roads minister is on the floor asking or answering questions of members of Parliament on a number of road situations in their various constituencies. After that, there are a couple of statements that will be taken before we expect Parliament to zoom into the very much talked about legal education reform bill, perhaps consider it to a certain point, and then the expectation is that in the next week or two, Parliament can pass that bill before it goes for Easter break. Ken.
Kweku Asante there. Thank you. The Food and Drugs Authority has launched a nationwide investigation into disturbing claims that some vendors may be melting plastic into frying oil to prepare plantain chips, a practice the regulator warns could pose serious health risks to unsuspecting consumers. Authorities say laboratory testing and market surveillance are already underway to determine whether polythene is being used deliberately to enhance the crispiness and shelf life of the popular street snack. In a public notice, the Food and Drugs Authority warned that anyone engaging in the practice could face prosecution and the permanent closure of their business. We will bring you details of that statement shortly, but first, here's an explainer put together by our digital team highlighting the widely circulated social media video that appears to show some producers adding pieces of plastic to hot oil while frying plantain chips.
So we are putting the viral claims to a test right now, and I have 4 fingers of plantain here. One batch of plantain chips fried the normal way, and another batch fried using the plastic method shown in the viral video. What you may notice is the chips can appear similarly crispy, but the real concern isn't just the texture, it's what is happening chemically in the oil.
When plastic meets hot oil, it doesn't just melt, but then it undergoes a series of chemical and physical transformations. These toxins released by the melted plastics are lipophilic or fat-loving, which means that they are able to migrate faster in the medium, which is oil. While this is still an active area of research, scientists have been able to identify several major concerns, which include oxidative stress, inflammation, chemical carrier, and endocrine disruption. Chemicals like BPA tend to interfere with the hormones, thereby causing problems with metabolism and reproduction.
While the chips might look crispy, experts say the bigger question is whether heating plastic in cooking oil could introduce harmful substances into food. For many people, that risk alone is enough to raise serious safety concerns.
On your screens now are excerpts of that statement from the Food and Drugs Authority. Let's go through together. And it says the Food and Drugs Authority, FDA, has noted with grave concern videos and reports circulating on social media alleging the use of plastic in frying plantain chips to improve the crispiness and shelf life of the product. We have commenced a nationwide market surveillance and laboratory testing of plantain chips to ascertain the veracity of these claims and protect the health and safety of consumers. Right, so there you have it. It continues to say that for the records, deliberate melting of plastic in frying oil is a direct chemical contamination of food, making it unwholesome for human consumption. The introduction of plastic materials, specifically low-density polyethylene, into oil at high temperatures leads to one, chemical migration, which is hot oil accelerating the leaching of plastics and antioxidants from the plastic into the food. It also continues to say that toxicological hazards, which are scientific research indicating that long-term ingestion of these migrated chemicals is linked to endocrine disruption, hormonal imbalances, and increased risks of certain cancers. Pursuant to Section 100 of the Public Health Act 2012, Act 851, which prohibits the sale of unwholesome or contaminated food, the use of any non-food grade additive, including plastics, in food preparation is a criminal offense. The person found engaging in this practice will face the full rigors of the law, including prosecution and permanent closure of their business. So these are excerpts of that particular statement, which have been released by the Food and Drugs Authority. It continues to say that consumers are advised to be vigilant, avoid plantain chips that have an unusually high chemical scent, a plastic-like aftertaste, or do not show a noticeable change in texture over time. So as I mentioned to you earlier, those are excerpts of that particular statement released by the Food and Drugs Authority, the FDA. And global disruptions to crude oil supplies are beginning to trigger anxiety among governments across the world as fears grow over potential fuel shortages and rising energy costs. In Ghana, attention is once again turning to the Tema Oil Refinery, with many industry watchers arguing that a sustained resumption of operations at TOR could strengthen the country's energy security, reduce dependence on imported refined petroleum products, and help cushion consumers from external supply shocks. But how realistic really is that expectation, and what role can the refinery practically play at this time? To help us understand the current state of the refinery and what its operations could mean for Ghana's fuel supply outlook, we're joined by the Corporate Affairs Officer at the Tema Oil Refinery, Godwin Mahama Ayaba. Grateful for your time this afternoon, Godwin. We've all seen the global shocks due to the ongoing Iran and Israel and U.S. wars. Sure. Do you think this is a critical time that TOR needs to be functioning?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. It's not an issue of it being the critical time for TOR to function, because the company is already functioning. On the 19th of December 2025, we officially announced the resumption of operations. And we are doing everything possible best to make sure that the people of Ghana get a full benefit of its own refinery, which is the Tema Oil Refinery. We have begun a 28,000 barrels refinery on daily basis, and we are hoping to tie in the Furnace 61, which is the F61, to the crude distillation unit, so we can move production from 28,000 to 45,000, and in the medium term, move it to 60,000 barrels per stream day. So management is doing everything possible to make sure that the refinery gets its utmost production period or limit, so that the people of Ghana can get a full benefit of it.
The 60,000 barrels per day will still not be enough to cushion Ghana, will it?
So on daily basis, statistics shows that we consume 100,000 barrels per stream day. We have about 4 refineries in the country. We have Tema Oil Refinery, we have Sentio, we have Akwaba, and we have Platinum. So all things being equal, if Tema Oil Refinery is able to move to its maximum production capacity, which is the 60,000 I earlier on mentioned, Tema Oil Refinery alone will be taking care of about 60% of the domestic consumption. And when we bring on board the other refineries, at least I know we may not be able to meet the 100,000 barrels consumption per day, but at least we'll be able to make some strides. And that is why part of the company's long-term plan is to begin 100,000 barrels capacity refinery beginning this year. So the plans on board is for Tema Oil Refinery to begin 100,000 barrels capacity refinery beginning this year. So that when we add up to the existing capacity, at least we'll be doing somewhere 160,000, which will go beyond the daily consumption, because it will be very good. We are able to make due what we have, and when we have in excess, we are able to export and also bring in forex to support the economy.
We've had fantastic ideas for TOR in the past years. So what should give people confidence that this time around things will change and you can sustain the production and the refineries that you're talking about?
Okay, so one, it is about leadership. And currently I can say without a shred of doubt or any equivocation that leadership has been restored at the refinery. And that is why today we are seeing what we are seeing. From the central government and the ministry, there is that will to make sure that it works again. Three, also, I have told you of the expansion of the 100,000. And the next point also is that in order to be able to help in the fuel pricing, there is a conversation far advanced between the agency, the ministry, and the government, for government to begin to feed or provide crude from our local or our domestic refineries or our domestic field to Tema Oil Refinery. So very soon, you will see government giving out some portions of the government interest in Jubilee and 10 to Tema Oil Refinery to refine, because the company or the machine or the facilities are configured in such a way that we will be able to refine our local crude. All our local crude are light, sweet crude. And Tema Oil Refinery facilities are made or were made purposely to refine light, sweet crude. So plans are far advanced between the government, the ministry, and the agency for government to provide the agency with some of our local crude for us to refine.
TOR has historically been riddled with debt and financial challenges. Have you been able to clear enough debt, and have you been able to manage your books to ensure that you can sustain these production that you're talking about?
So as we speak, when the new management took over, there was a backlog of audits. So there have been a backlog of about 6 years or 5 years unaudited account. So as we speak, process is ongoing. I think we have done about 4 to 5 years, leaving about a year or two to go. Management is also doing its possible best to make sure that we manage the little that we have. And we are also in talk with the others that we are in debt with to make sure that at least we'll be able to do our possible. I will not be able to speak to the figures, how much we have been able to pay, but what I know is that we are in talk with most of them to see how best we'll be able to clear the debt. But so far, so good, because new management has been able to manage the resources in such a way that since the new management came, there has not been a single borrowing so long as all the activities is concerned. All the expenses being made are from the monies generated within the company, which usually we'll call IMF. Quite recently, IGF. Recently, we announced some achievement that management has recorded, i.e. the fleet of cars we've bought. They've bought about 8 pickups to support activities. They've purchased 3 coastal buses. They've also purchased 2 forklifts. They have also gone through a 3-month turnaround maintenance, and it is as a result of that today TOR is back. As we speak, there are a lot of maintenance works also going on. When you come to TOR today, you realize that they've hoarded the frontage, and there's construction going on, making sure that we'll give the facility a new face lift. All are coming from the IGF being generated within the company. So management so far has been able to manage the resources very well. They are doing their possible best not to add up debt, but to clear what they came to meet, because they came to meet a debt of about $517 million. So it is quite huge. So we don't expect mismanagement, and so far they have exhibited that leadership that shows that they are not in to mismanage, but rather manage the resources very well. Another point that needs to be made also is that when the new management came,
right,
we had most of the employees for the past 6 to 7 years, issues of promotions, issues of salaries, and all other issues were issues that were lingering in the at the refinery. So what he did was to make sure that everybody who was due promotion, who was due salary increment, particularly on the casual workers, he had made sure everybody has gotten his or her fair share of the promotion and the salary increment. All were done through the IGF generated, not money borrowed from anywhere.
Interesting. You're telling us that in the medium term, you're looking at producing 60,000 barrels per day. In the long term, you can go as high as 120,000 barrels per day.
100,000.
Yes.
So we intend to bring on board a new refinery with a capacity of 100,000 barrels.
Right.
So when you add to the existing, currently what we have, or where we intend to get to, we'll end up making having about 160,000 capacity refinery.
Analysts are saying that if we are able to produce enough, oil, refine them locally, it's going to help sustain the prices of fuel at the pump. How can this enough production of fuel and refinery at your pump, at your factory, help influence prices at the pumps?
So as we speak, most of the finished petroleum products that we consume are imported. And we all know the importations are not being done using our local currency. You need to convert or exchange the Ghana cedi to dollars to be able to import this finished petroleum product. And this usually puts a lot of burden on our currency. So when TOR is able to reach its maximum of 60,000 and ask up the 100,000, what then means is that we wouldn't now be relying so much on imported finished petroleum product. All will be done internally. So most people will not need that huge sums of Ghana cedi, turning it or changing it into dollars to go and import. All those monies will still remain in this in the country, and that will alleviate or take away that pressure that would have been on the Ghanaian cedi, which always causes this inflation and high fuel prices. And this is some of the benefits that TOR is going to give so long as pricing of finished petroleum product is concerned.
You mentioned that there's a new refinery in the pipeline which could produce 100,000 barrels per day. When is it coming into effect, and how much is that going to cost?
Seriously, I can roughly give you the figures, but what I know is that it is part of our 2026 agenda. As I said, it is a long-term project, but we intend to begin that this year. So I will not be able to give you the specifics in terms of costs and in terms of when that refinery would begin. But I know it is part of our 2026 target.
Now we are facing a potential global shortage of fuel due to the oil, as I mentioned earlier, and TOR says they are now in active production. How can you assure Ghanaians that you will play a major role in safeguarding our fuel sufficiency in the coming weeks?
So the National Petroleum Authority, which is the regulator, some 3-4 hours ago issued an official statement assuring all of us that as for shortage, there is no way the Iran-Israel conflict is going to affect shortages, or there's no way we are going to record shortages. It is simply because Ghana, we largely import from two different areas, Europe and the Arabian regions. And where we import most is Europe. We import about 80% of our finished petroleum product from Europe and about 20% from the Arabian region, where this Israel-Iran conflict may affect or has been affected. So we are likely to lose that 20%. But with TOR coming on stream, as I told you, we are currently producing 28,000. After the tie-in, we'll move to 45,000 and further move to 60,000. So TOR will come and block that 20% that would have come from the Arabian country.
Can TOR do that?
Yes, together with the other existing refinery companies, as I earlier on mentioned. Central is doing around 36 to 40,000 barrels a day. Akwaba is doing somewhere less than 10,000. Platinum is around a little below 3,000. So together, all these companies will be able to block that 20% that would have come from the Arabian region. Then we'll still have the 80% from Europe coming in. So I will add my voice to the official communique from MPA that we should be rest assured that we are not going to record fuel shortages.
Beyond the new refinery that you say is coming on board as part of your agenda 2027, did you say that?
No, at 2026. We are beginning the construction of a new refinery as part of our 2026.
As you do that, though, are there plans to modernize TOR in the process?
Sure, it is ongoing. Okay. We are exchanging a lot of existing facilities, the pipes, the pumps, and all other things, because we need to be able to upgrade the system to be able to meet modernity. So all are ongoing concurrently.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. That is Godwin Mahama Ayaba. He's the Corporate Affairs Officer at the Tema Oil Refinery. Well, let's take you back to Parliament, where the Minority Leader, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, is making a statement on the floor of the House.
Economic management that came before him. Mr. Speaker, those decisions were necessary. Decisions that the very people now taking the bow spend years attacking, mocking, and weaponizing on campaign platforms across this country. When Ghana's economy buckled under the weight of post-COVID-19 pressures and accumulated structural weakness, it was the MPP that made the hardest call in recent Ghanaian history. We went to IMF, we negotiated extended credit facility, we structured the debt, we imposed fiscal discipline at enormous political cost. The MPP told Ghanaians the truth about their country's finances, even when that truth was brutal, even when we knew our opponent would use it against us. And indeed, they used it against us. The very people who now stand in this chamber, taking bows for a recovering economy, are the same people who stood on platforms and told Ghanaians that the IMF program was a betrayal. They mocked our fiscal consolidation. They described our revenue reforms. They derided our revenue reforms. They weaponized our sacrifice to win election. And now they have the audacity, the sheer audacity, to stand here and claim the harvest of seeds they never planted, through rain they never endured, on soil they never tended. Mr. Speaker, that is not governance. That is opportunism dressed in a borrowed robe. And the same applies to gold. The Gold for Oil Reserve program that this administration is marketing to Ghanaians as a signature innovation was never invented by this government. It was conceived, designed, and launched by the NPP administration, spearheaded by the former Vice President, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. Mr. Speaker, it was our policy, our framework, our initiative. What this administration has done is to take that program, rebrand it, put their name on the door, and present it to the world as though they thought of it themselves. We hereby submit that, Mr. Speaker, it is time the government gave to Bawumia what belongs to Bawumia. There is nothing wrong with continuing a good policy. What is wrong, what is dishonest, and what this minority will not allow to pass without challenge is claiming the intellectual and policy credit for a program the NDC spent years opposing and which MPP built from the ground up. Mr. Speaker, Ghana cannot learn right lessons from its recent economic history if those in power are permitted to rewrite it. This minority will not allow that rewriting to stand. Mr. Speaker, the NDC has betrayed the Ghanaian farmer. Mr. Speaker, when they were in opposition, they promised that they will pay a farm gate price per bag of cocoa 6,000 Ghana cedis. Today, the reality is different. When farmers woke up one day, the finance minister at the Ministry of Finance, through a press conference, announced a haircut, reduced the price per bag to 2,587. This very disappointing. The farmer who believed in the promises of NDC was disappointed. And what did the president say? We should tighten our belt. Meanwhile, Mr. Speaker, the president is busily ordering for a new aircraft. Mr. Speaker, it is not only the cocoa farmer who is suffering. The rice farmer, who has invested heavily in rice production, is also suffering. Mr. Speaker, rice farmers cannot get market for their produce. Mr. Speaker, the rice farmers are suffering because many people
Minority Leader, your microphone is off. Your microphone is off. You have the floor. Please, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, people are now depending on cheap imported rice. And our farmers who invested heavily in rice production are not getting market for their produce. Mr. Speaker, those who have cultivated yam are also suffering. Mr. Speaker, they are not getting access to the market. Nobody is supporting them. And this government is only depending on gold. They are only interested in gold board, promoting galamsey. And Mr. Speaker, we cannot abandon our farmers and think that by promoting illegal mining and getting cheap gold, we will be developing our economy. Mr. Speaker, this government is under that illusion that there are gains in what it is doing. Mr. Speaker, this government is bound to fail. Mr. Speaker, if illegal mining can be stopped, Mr. Speaker, then government must show seriousness. It's a public health emergency, and it is a generational crime against children not yet born. Mr. Speaker, the president gave us some numbers, that there are some 1,634 blue water guards deployed, 114 case files open, and 1,033 pieces of equipment tracked. The minority will not waste time dismissing these figures. The water is still brown, they should know. The land is still scarred. The rivers are still dying. We note the reported seizure of approximately 1,000 Shamfang excavators at Tema Port. Mr. Speaker, this we welcome. However, it raises questions that screams for answers. Who imported them? The public deserves to know. And let me be clear, those machines must be publicly destroyed without delay, not stored in a government warehouse where they can be quietly retrieved, not reallocated to some favored contractor. They must be destroyed, crushed into scrap. Mr. Speaker, now let me turn to the gold board. Mr. Speaker, the gold board, according to the IMF, incurred losses not exceeding 7 billion cedis as at end 2025. Mr. Speaker, this report from the IMF is something that, Mr. Speaker, government should be concerned about. How can you be selling gold and incurring losses. Mr. Speaker, the minority raised this alarm upon receipt of the IMF report, and we expect our motion to be taken on the floor for us to interrogate. Mr. Speaker, we are not interested in 15-month reserves of import cover. We are not interested in the so-called macroeconomic numbers, the so-called inflation. Inflation is best felt by the ordinary Ghanaian on the market. We are not interested in their paper figures for the IMF. Mr. Speaker, what the President did not tell the people of Ghana is the challenges going on in the recruitment exercise. Mr. Speaker, Ghana is a nation that must embrace the future. Artificial intelligence, digital system, and technological innovation are not things we should fear. In fact, if we want to compete globally, we must move boldly into that future. But Mr. Speaker, technology must work for the people. It must become a barrier between, it must not become a barrier between the people and opportunity. Today, many young Ghanaians are deeply frustrated with this AI recruitment system that has been introduced. Across the country, young men and women, graduates, unemployed youth, and hopeful applicants have spent their last money purchasing recruitment vouchers, only to face systems that reject their pins, flag them incorrectly, or prevent them from completing their applications. For many of these young people, this was not just a technical inconvenience, it was a difference between hope and disappointment. Mr. Speaker, we must also remember that Ghana is still a country with real infrastructure challenges. Reliable internet is not available everywhere. Electricity is not constant everywhere. Many applicants do not have laptops or smartphones. Some must travel long distances just to find a place with internet access to attempt their applications. So when a system is designed entirely around digital access without considering those realities, it risks excluding the very people it was meant to help. Technology should level the playing field, not tilt it. Mr. Speaker, when legitimate systems fail, illegitimate actors quickly step in. Already, we are hearing worrying reports of middlemen and scammers exploiting desperate young people, promising shortcuts into recruitment processes in exchange for money. This is how systems that are meant to create transparency can unintentionally create new forms of exploitation. But beyond all of this, Mr. Speaker, there is something even more important at stake: the trust of our youth. The young people of this country want to believe that opportunity in Ghana is fair. They want to believe that if they follow the rules, if they apply through the proper channels, the system will work for them. When that faith begins to erode, frustrations grow. Mr. Speaker, this is not about rejecting technology. AI is here to stay, and Ghana must move forward with digital transformation. But progress must be thoughtful. It must be inclusive. It must always place the Ghanaian people at the center. Therefore, I respectfully, on behalf of my colleagues in the minority, submit that there must be an immediate review of the current AI recruitment system to ensure that it is transparent, accessible, and fair to every Ghanaian youth, whether they live in Accra or in the remotest communities of this country. Because, Mr. Speaker, a system designed to create opportunity must never become a barrier to opportunity. Indeed, our young people deserve better, and the NDC government must hear this loud and clear. The young people of Ghana deserve better. Mr. Speaker, let me proceed to also draw the government attention to one more thing. There is no NDC Ghana, there is no MPP Ghana. I call on the government forthwith to reinstate all those Ghanaian youths who were dismissed as a result of the directive of government to state agencies. Mr. Speaker, those young Ghanaians have families, have the aspirations. They should not suffer just because there's a change of government. Mr. Speaker, it's been over a year. The government must reinstate them to go back to work. It is unfair, and one day, Mr. Speaker, it will come back and haunt them. Mr. Speaker, let me refer to another suffering of the ordinary Ghanaian, electricity tariffs. Mr. Speaker, to go down memory lane, in 2015, we saw electricity hikes going as high as 31%. Mr. Speaker, in the second quarter of 2015. By fourth quarter 2015, electricity tariffs had increased to 59%. Mr. Speaker, in total, under the previous NDC administration, in 2015 alone, electricity tariffs increased by 90%, whilst water increased by 88%. Mr. Speaker, today, NDC is back. And what do we see? On 3rd May 2025, electricity tariff increased by 14.75%. On 1st July 2025, 2.45%. On 1st October 2025, 1.14%. Mr. Speaker, on 1st January 2026, 9.8%. Mr. Speaker, that's put together a total of 28.14 in electricity tariffs alone. Mr. Speaker, that is a record of the NDC, and that is a record that the President did not talk about. Mr. Speaker, this government has also failed in ensuring the implementation of the 24-hour economy. They promised the Ghanaian youth that there will be one job, 3 shifts. The President came here, he didn't talk about the one job, 3 shifts. What we see is frustration of our people. And they also promised the women that there was going to be a women bank. Mr. Speaker, it's been over a year. When are we going to have the women bank? That is also another matter the President refused to talk about. Mr. Speaker, on the foreign front, our compatriots who are on peacekeeping are in danger, are in harm's way. Mr. Speaker, on a true state of the nation, we expected, Mr. President, to talk about the suffering of our soldiers in peacekeeping. Mr. Speaker, we are aware of their predicaments, the bombing in the area that they are. But, Mr. Speaker, the President has not spoken about it. None of his ministers has even had the courage to come to Parliament to address the nation on this. Mr. Speaker, we, the caucus, the minority caucus, hereby say that, Mr. Speaker, we are with our compatriots who are in Lebanon. We share in their pain. Those who are injured, we wish them a speedy recovery. And we urge government to take steps in ensuring that the necessary support systems are in place, the proper diplomatic channels are engaged to protect our compatriots who are on peacekeeping in Lebanon. And then, Mr. Speaker, in Burkina Faso, what happened to our market women? 8 of them killed. No concrete steps were taken to help the families. And, Mr. Speaker, again, we say to their families, we mourn with them. Mr. Speaker, we stand with them, and we expect government to take steps to support their families and not to abandon them. Mr. Speaker, it's been several months after the unfortunate helicopter crash. We know that the finance minister has a heavy responsibility. What we understood from the President then was that the finance minister was to act for some few weeks to enable him appoint a new defense minister. Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, because defense security is not the priority of this government, to date, there is no substantive defense minister appointed to take affairs of state at the Defense Ministry. This, Mr. President, did not talk about, and we see it as a major policy failure of the government. Mr. Speaker, we urge the President to prioritize the security of Ghanaian lives and ensure that our Defense Ministry is properly manned by a minister with full responsibility. Mr. Speaker, what the President did not also talk about is the human rights abuses we have seen the past year. Many appointees on our side were either arrested without warrant or, Mr. Speaker, even when they themselves had reported themselves to the investigating agency, Mr. Speaker, they granted them very onerous bail conditions with an attempt to keep them, and instead of the Attorney General using the court to prosecute cases, he decided to use press conference to persecute them. Mr. Speaker, we find this very unacceptable. Mr. Speaker, the President has told us that under the independence, the 69th independence of our Republic, the theme, building prosperity, restoring hope. Mr. Speaker, we beg to ask the question, what hope are we restoring when the President is failing to address issues in the private sector? What hope have we when the President is not creating jobs? What we want the government to know is that, Mr. Speaker, no matter how long it takes, they have just 3 years left. We, the minority, would endure. We will stand with the people of Ghana, relying on Martin Luther King's words. We cannot walk alone, and as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. The minority will never turn back. We will walk with the people of Ghana. We will stand firm for their interests, and we know that, Mr. Speaker, come 2028, the tables will turn. And Mr. Speaker, for those who are abusing their power and authority, let me remind them that the ravening clouds shall not long be victorious. They shall not long possess the sky. We urge them to be measured in the exercise of their duties, even as they are in public office. Yesterday, Mr. Speaker, we experienced a sad situation in this chamber where the Deputy Finance Minister came here with his own piece of propaganda, which propaganda was already contained in the President's State of the Nation address. Mr. Speaker, we welcome that report. And we pray that they would be able to be firm when that day comes for their own accountability. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, these were the words of the chief whip of the majority side. Mr. Speaker, he admitted that the suffering of the Ghanaian youth has hit his side, and these were his own words. Quote, Mr. Speaker, the pressure on MPs as we sit here, our phones are beaming with message about disqualification. And so let me assure the House and the entire nation that the minister responsible for Interior, especially in respect of the services that fall under his supervision, is taking steps to address the issues. Mr. Speaker, it is our hope that the majority will walk the talk and ensure that the masses who are suffering get a fair opportunity to get recruited. And Mr. Speaker, before I resume my seat, let me reiterate one more time that the rice farmers need the attention of government. The cocoa farmers need the attention of government. The young farmers, the poor young farmer needs the attention of farmers. Maize farmers need the attention of farmers. Mr. Speaker, the government should not only think about its comfort. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that said, I want to submit, finally, that, Mr. Speaker, the President must come again and address the nation on all the issues happening and ensure that the youth of the country who were promised jobs are given jobs, that steps are taken to build a transparent system that will help grow our economy. If they come honestly and work with us, Mr. Speaker, we would work with them for the sake of our country, Mr. Speaker. That said, I want to thank you very much.
Your time is up. Of the minority, let us not overdo things. It's now the turn honorable members, let us not overdo things. It's now the turn of the majority leader, who will also be speaking for 30 minutes. Majority leader, you have the floor. Members of the minority, we should not be compelled to do what we shouldn't do. Yes, you have the floor.
Right Honorable Speaker, before I go on to the text of my closing debate on the state of the nation as presented by the President, let me just correct some inaccuracies in the presentation of my colleague. He said that the President did not say anything about the plight of our soldiers in the Middle East because of the conflict. What he has forgotten is that the President delivered the Sona on the 27th of February. On the 27th of February. And America and Israel attacked Iran on the 28th. A day after, how could the President be addressing this House on a matter that had not occurred? Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Netiwu, you are a former leader. With all due respect, Honorable Netiwu, you are a former leader.
Mr. Speaker, again, he questions the commitment of this government by saying that we should not keep excavators and chamfangs in warehouses, we should burn them. Mr. Speaker, in which civilized world will the government seize excavators, dozers, trucks, and burn them? In which civilized society will a nation do that? Those equipment have alternative uses. Someone might bring it in with the intention of using it for an illegal purpose. But when the state seizes it, that equipment is available to be used for a perfectly legal purpose. And so I cannot fathom how the leader of the minority will suggest that every excavator seized at the port, not at the mining site, seized at the port, should be burned at the port. But when we run out of ideas, we hear all those things. Mr. Speaker, we gather here not merely to fulfill a formal constitutional debate on the Sona, but to bear witness to a national resurrection. For 3 long years, our republic walked through a valley of economic shadows, a wilderness where the air was thick with the dust of devaluation and the ground was cracked by the heat of excruciating debt. We were a nation that forgot how to dream because we were too busy trying to survive. We were a people whose resilience was tested until the very marrow of our national character was laid bare. But as the old proverb teaches us, and as the President so poignantly reminded this House, however long the night, the dawn will break. Mr. Speaker, look out of this August House. That dawn is no longer a distant promise we recite in our prayers. It is a rising sun that is warming the hearts of our people from Hamile to Hafasini. The state of our nation is no longer a story of survival. It is a chronicle of revival. It is the story of a people who refuse to let the fire of the Black Star go out. Let us be clear-eyed about the ruins we inherited. On the 19th of December 2022, Ghana fell. We declared a debt default, a dark, cold day when our national wealth was no longer our bond. We inherited a shackle of 80 billion in energy debt and an economy gasping for air with inflation at 54.1%. Our reserves were depleted. Our credit was crushed. Our youth looked at the horizon and saw only a wall of uncertainty and despair. But Mr. Speaker, a house is not judged by how it stands in the sun, but by how it held firm during the storm. When the winds of that default threatened to rip the roof off our republic, there were those who whispered that Ghana was finished. They suggested we were a failed experiment, but they were wrong. Under the resetting Ghana agenda, we did not just patch the leaks, we reinforced the foundation. We chose the difficult part of structural integrity over the easy part of political convenience. We performed a fiscal bypass on a dying economy. And today, Mr. Speaker, the patient is not just walking, the patient is running and ready to fly. In a spectacular display of fiscal athleticism, our city has ceased its frantic retreat. It has appreciated by 40.7% against the US dollar and 30.9% against the pound. We settled a 709 million euro bond ahead of schedule, not because we had excess, but because we had discipline. Today, the global arbiters, Fitch, Moody's, and S&P now sing a chorus of approval with a triple credit upgrade. This is not a trophy for the cabinet. It is a certificate of strength for every Ghanaian who kept faith when the nights were cold. Mr. Speaker, my friends on the other side say they are just statistics. To them, I say numbers are the language of the state. But food is the language of the home. General inflation has plummeted to 3.8%. Food inflation has been tamed to 4.9%. When petrol prices dropped from 15 cedis to 20 cedis, 15.20 to 9.99 cedis, it is a pay rise for every taxi driver, every trotro driver, every trader gets a check when the prices of petrol reduce. We abolish the nuisance taxes, e-levy, the betting tax, the emission tax, retaining 6 billion Ghana cedis to the pockets of ordinary Ghanaians. Nowhere is this revival more spectacular than in the financial sector. Once the graveyard of our hopes, there were days when the vault was empty and the future was mortgaged. Days when the collapse of our banking institution felt like a permanent eclipse. But today, Mr. Speaker, the 2025 Monetary Policy Report signals a recovery that borders on the miraculous. Our total assets have surged to a monumental 447 billion Ghana cedis. This is not just a figure, it is a fortress. It is a testament to a system purged of its weaknesses and fortified by integrity. We have moved from the precipice of systemic collapse to a summit of liquidity. We have ensured that the savings of the Ghanaians are no longer a gamble, but a guarantee. Let me repeat that. We have ensured that the savings of Ghanaians are no longer a gamble, but a guarantee. Mr. Speaker, the heart of this republic beats in our cocoa farms. So let me speak about cocoa farms. For decades, the Ghanaian farmer was spectator to the wealth generated by his own beans. They bore the heat of the sun, whilst others enjoyed the sweetness of the chocolate. We have shattered that glass ceiling. By institutionalizing the cocoa sector reforms, we have ensured that the historic surge in global cocoa prices is delivered directly to the farm gate. We have moved the producer price to unprecedented heights, ensuring that when the world pays more for a bar of chocolate, the farmer in Setri, Enchi, Tepa finally sees a reflection of that value in his pocket. That is the essence of the reforms in the sector, so that the world market price will move directly to the farmer. Today, when the world market price is bad, the farmer will feel it. But by the system we have put in place, when tomorrow the world market price is good, the farmer will stand in good stead. This is not mere comments. It is the restoration of the dignity of the Ghanaian soul. We are moving from being exporters of raw toil to masters of our own industrial destiny, investing in local processing so that made in Ghana becomes a global standard of excellence, not a colonial footnote. Yet, Mr. Speaker, let us speak the truth that the corridors of power often fear. The call for accountability, and I hear my colleague, the minority leader, speak about human rights abuses and harassment of ex-while appointees of the NPP. Mr. Speaker, the call for accountability is not a pursuit of vengeance. It is a requirement of constitutional hygiene. When a regime exits the corridors of power, leaving behind a trail of depleted reserves, astronomical debt, and unvowed for expenditures, the silence of the successor is not statesmanship, it is complicity. To ignore the financial misdeeds of the past is to tell the future that the public purse is a trophy for the swift rather than a trust for the people. We cannot build a reset Ghana on a foundation of impunity. We must ensure that those who treated the national treasury as a private fiefdom are brought to face the stern, impartial light of the law. Accountability acts as the ultimate deterrent against the recurrence of fiscal recklessness. if the architects of the 2022 debt default and the purveyors of inflated sole source contracts walk away into a comfortable retirement, we effectively institutionalize corruption as a low-risk, high-reward venture. By pursuing forensic audits and legal recovery, the state signals that the value for money principle is not a rhetorical flourish, but a binding legal mandate. It is a moral necessity to show the taxpayer, who is currently enduring the hard choices of recovery, that their sacrifice is not being used to subsidize the past theft of a privileged few. Ultimately, this is about the restoration of the soul of our democracy. Financial accountability ensures that the institutional resolve to speak of it backed by the weight of justice. We do not seek to settle scores. We seek to settle the accounts of the Republic. Only by cleaning the stables of the previous regime can we guarantee that the new dawn we are building is not just a change of faces, but a fundamental change in the character of Ghanaian governance. The Accra Reset is our continental manifesto. With the passage of the 24-hour Economy Authority Bill, we have unlocked the gates of productivity that were locked by the sunset for 60 years. Let me repeat them, Mr. Speaker. With the passage of the 24-hour Economy Authority Bill, we have unlocked the gates of productivity that were locked by the sunset for 60 years. Critics ask, why a 24-hour economy? Critics ask, why a 24-hour economy? I tell them, because poverty does not take a break at 8 p.m. Hunger does not sleep. We are breaking the 8 to 5 shackles. Backed by an initial 110 million Ghana cedis, we are turning the dead of night into the bread of life. From the Accra-Kumasi Expressway to the Volivo Bridge, Ghana is once again a construction site. We are creating jobs. We are expanding businesses. We are not just building roads. We are building arteries for commerce. With 27,000 new jobs in our garment factories, we are stitching the fabric of a new middle class. We are rebalancing the scales of justice through education. The No Fee Stress initiative has already shielded 152,698 first-year students from financial exclusion, a number set to rise to 220,000 students. In health, we launched Mahama Cares with a 2.9 billion Ghana cedis fund for chronic diseases. Should a father have to choose between university fees and his wife's dialysis? Should that be the case? Today, we are tearing up that ledger of despair. We have seized our sovereignty from the hands of donors and placed it back into the hands of our doctors. We are ending the no-bed syndrome, because a healthful bed is a right of citizenship, not a prize for the privilege. Our Feed Ghana program is the pillar of our sovereignty. We are procuring 660 tractors and 400 combined harvesters. We are determined to slash out $400 million poultry import bill by raising 10 million birds on our own soil. We will not be a nation that begs for what we can grow. Let me repeat that. We will not be a nation that begs for what we can grow. And let it be known, the era of the sole source contract is dead. The value for money office bill is our sword against waste. Mr. Speaker, as I take my seat, let us remember that the Republic is larger than any political party. It belongs to the nurse in Ho, the teacher in Gambaga, the fisherman in Mori, the youth in the Dawa industrial zones. Nations endure not because they are spared trials, but because their people refuse to surrender. We were tested by the furnace of death, and like the fine gold of our soil, we have emerged purer and stronger. Let history record that in 2026, we did not just build prosperity, we restored the soul of a nation. We chose action over apathy. We chose the light of accountability over the darkness of complicity. We chose the farmer over the financier. The dawn is no longer breaking, Mr. Speaker. The morning is here. It is a morning of work, a morning of justice, a morning of hope, and that morning, bright, bold, and beautiful, belongs to the people of Ghana. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Members, order. Honorable Nuruddin, order. Honorable members, can we have order? Honorable members, on Tuesday, 3rd March 2026, the Honorable Member for Bolgatanga Central and Chairman of the Finance Committee, Mr. Honorable Isaac Adongo, moved this motion, and it was seconded by the Honorable Member for Asin South and the Ranking Member for Committee on Defense, Honorable Reverend John Ntim Fojo. As was determined by the leadership, the two leaders have successfully concluded the debate today. At the conclusion of the debate, the question is, as many as are in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Those against say no. Honourable members, the ayes have it. The motion is accordingly adopted. I shall, in accordance with Standing Order 72(4), formally convey the gratitude of the House to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana. Yes, Majority Leader, any indication?
Speaker. Speaker, we today, as leaders have concluded the debate on the Sona, we think that it's an opportune time to adjourn for today, so that tomorrow we can come back at 2 p.m. to consider that business. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Yes, the application is to have the House adjourn.
What just gone by is the leaders of both the majority and minority side in Parliament debating the State of the Nation address, which was delivered by President John Mahama last month. You're still watching the polls here on JoyNews. We return from the break with more. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. The Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, is warning power consumers to expect possible erratic outages later this month as they begin replacing about 1,500 aging transformers across their network. The exercise forms part of efforts to improve power reliability and address operational challenges, with the company acknowledging that aging infrastructure and operational inefficiencies continue to affect service delivery. The transformer replacements are part of the first phase of ECG's new 5-year corporate strategy aimed at transforming the power distributor into a competitive, sustainable, and customer-focused energy service provider. The Minister for Energy, John Jinapo, revealed this in a meeting with ECG and other stakeholders.
Because of years of underinvestment, a lot of the transformers are obsolete, they are overloaded, and they are unable to withstand pressure. And that's the truth. you can talk to the experts. That's what the current situation is. So I asked him, how many transformers do we need? He said, we need a minimum. Between NETCO and ECG, at least we must immediately replace 1,500 transformers. I looked at your budget and said, you cannot procure all that at a go. So I've gone to lobby Minister of Finance, and he's agreed that he will support us so that we'll procure 1,500 transformers and deploy those 1,500. And I pleaded with him that it should not be a loan. Because we can't continue to have these outages, especially when tariffs are going up. People want to see reliable supply of power, uninterrupted reliable supply of power. So I want to appeal to Ghanaians that from the end of March, you're going to see a lot of injection of transformers. That would cause a little bit of disruption, but we'll announce it, we'll pre-inform you, but bear with us when we are changing the transformers.
Let's go into the telephone lines right now and speak to Dr. Charles Ni Ayiku. He's the General Manager in charge of External Communications at ECG. Dr. Ayiku, grateful for your time this afternoon. ECG says about 1,500 aging transformers will be replaced. How widespread is the problem of aging infrastructure across the network?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, and good afternoon to you and your viewers as well as your listeners. Yes, so it is a combination of ECG and NETCO as announced by the minister. Yes, so we are looking at, for ECG, we're looking at about 1,000 or a little more than 1,000, yes, from our side. And this is across all of our operational areas. As you are aware, our communities are growing. So we need to change transformers, upgrade, replace, and as well as repair. Yes, so when we even look at Adenta and Dodo alone, we are looking at about 100 transformers, which are either close to their capacity or have exceeded its capacity. Yes, so we are looking at these areas. So we look at the capacity of the transformers within these areas, and then where they've exceeded, or probably they are close to, because of our green communities, we work on them, that's replacing or upgrading them.
So apart from Adenta, which other areas will be affected heavily?
That it's across all of our operational areas. So I'm just giving an example of some communities where we have a lot of challenges.
Right.
And the number of transformers that these areas will need. And quickly on top of my head, I can talk about Adenta and Dodoa, where we need about 100 transformers to replace the current transformers that we have there.
Across all your network areas, that means southern Ghana, and NETCO is going to take charge of northern Ghana, correct?
The northern part of Ghana, yes, that's correct.
Right. And how should consumers brace themselves? How should they prepare themselves? More doomsor?
Oh, no, it's not about doomsor. It's about a replacement and upgrade of our transformers. But we put in place a communication strategy that would include pre-informing customers when we are about to start. And where we need to isolate, where we need to mitigate or reduce any outage within a certain area, then they wouldn't even experience any outage. But where it's important that they go off for us to replace the transformers, yes, we are going to do that. So we'll pre-inform them and keep them updated. You know, it's not just about bringing the transformer and then moving it there or replacing, but we have to check on the platform they're going to use, the various preparatory work that has to be done before the transformers come in. So around that time, we'll be engaging them, we inform them, and as I said, if it is not necessary for us to, when it comes to the replacement, and we can move you to a nearby transformer and everything will be fine, I mean, we'll do that. So some will not even experience any outage. But we are pleading with our customers that should there be any outage, we sincerely apologize, and we are working to make sure that there's reliable power supply that they would enjoy.
What sort of improvements should customers expect once these upgrades are done?
So improved reliability, there wouldn't be better service. I mean, improved voltage, stability of power, less outages, and the sanitization of our network. Because even after the upgrade or through all that processes, we'll continue to monitor our HV lines to make sure that they are well sanitized. We'll continue to patrol our lines so that where there are issues, we can quickly take action and resolve them. So there'll be less outage. Unless there's probably a planned maintenance session, sanitize our network, improve our voltage so there wouldn't be low current as we usually call it, or disco light as some also call it.
Right.
And there's going to be stability of power and also on our network.
Already, right. Already some residents in Kumasi and Accra have started reporting erratic power outages. Is that due to the upgrades?
The upgrade, the full upgrade would commence beginning the end of March. But currently, there are some network challenges, which could be emergency or a planned maintenance. Yes, but Accra and Kumasi are some of the key areas where we have most of our transformers having issues. So these are some of the regions that we'll be tackling as part of the upgrade.
Dr. Ayiku, people are saying that there are real challenges that go beyond these planned upgrades that you intend to do, and you are hiding behind that so that if people's lights go off, they'll not say it's doomsday, but it's rather due to the upgrades that are taking place.
My brother, if there is doomsday, we would announce it. We have more than enough power for our customers. So there's no doomsday. You can, when you have time, you can carry to our cameras wherever there is any planned maintenance or where there's within any community where they have been challenges. We can go and investigate the issue.
Right.
We can go and investigate the issue.
Dr. Charles.
Because you realize that, on our HV lines, we are able to detect certain outages.
Okay.
But on our LV lines, we are not able to. And most of these are localized. That's why we always urge our customers to call us whenever some of these things occur within their neighborhoods. Because when it's a localized issue, it's difficult for us to know. Unless through or during our patrols, we get to see this, and then we quickly attend to them.
Right.
Otherwise, we have enough, more than enough.
So you mean those who are currently...
With your expertise and your background and your own investigations, you can tell that we have enough power for our customers to enjoy. For their activities.
Right. So you mean that those who are currently experiencing intermittent power outages in Accra and Kumasi should report to your office because it's likely to be a localized outage?
Exactly. Exactly. If it is not a planned maintenance, yes. It's because we are not all of our planned maintenance schedules, the affected areas and the period by which we are going to undertake these activities. But as you are aware, these are machines. These are machines, and sometimes through natural disasters or even our own man-made actions, it affects the network, like trucks hitting our poles and all of that. Those things are there. But when there is also, when the transfers also exceed their capacity, it also comes up like that. It fits. And once we are aware, we move in to create the balance for customers to enjoy power.
How long is this upgrade going to take?
I cannot give an exact, but it's going to be an ongoing process as we place all of these. as the minister said, not even to talk about NETCO, but even just ECG, they were looking at about 1,000 of them.
Right. Dr. Charles Ni Ayiku, thank you very much. He's the General Manager in charge of external communications at the Electricity Company of Ghana. Now, managers of the Wija water treatment plant are expressing worry over growing encroachment of the dam. The concern was raised during an inspection tour of the Wija water treatment plant, which is currently underway. Let's listen to the Minister in charge of Works and Housing, Kenneth Gilbert Ejay, who is briefing the media now after that tour. And James Aveji will give us a wrap of what we might have missed so far.
Prepare others too from getting close. And on the part of the filtration media too, I've seen that work is ongoing. Currently 8 is working and the 4 is being worked on. I met a contractor on site. I've seen the works that they are doing. We've seen some few challenges too as far as the plant itself is concerned. And we are going to work on it to ensure that the plant is able to work to its full capacity for the people of Western Accra and part of the central region to get the water that they need. So that is right.
So how long is that going to take you with the local government?
It's not a matter of how long it's going to take. We are going to take action now. Tomorrow meeting is going to happen, and I'm sure very soon we will come back here and we'll invite you. But as was said earlier on, we also plead with you as media that wherever you stand, please talk about some of these things. We all sometimes talk about the fact that our water bill is going up, but it's as a result of some of these things. Because if we have these encroachers and they pollute the water, we have to spend more money in treating the water. And if we spend more money in treating the water, the resultant thing is the price of the water bill would also have to shoot up. So for us not to pay high tariffs and all that, these are some of the things, because we all take water, we all pay water bill. So I'm pleading with you, the media, so that wherever you stand, you should also speak against some of these things. We will do our part as government, but we plead with you that you also keep sensitizing our people for us.
Right. Minister, finally, you are here as a sector minister. You know some few challenges of water issues that are in the system Accra here. You've had the opportunity to speak to Ghanaians. What do you have to say to Ghanaians regarding the few issues that we have in the system?
We are seriously working on it. I know one headache that we have as a country is the Teshi desalination plant. And we continue to plead with the people that that plant serves them, as in Teshi, Nungwa, and its surrounding areas. And I know it's even affecting the people of Pram Pram, of which I've directed Ghana Water to ensure that that thing is resolved, because I spoke to the Honorable Minister of Pram Pram, Honorable Sam George, and he's having serious issues there. These people are on him that our water is not flowing. So Ghana Water is trying its best to get it resolved. And that of the desalination plant, His Excellency the President has directed myself, the Finance Minister, and the Attorney General to ensure that we get it resolved. Consultations are ongoing. The owners of the plant were in town. We met them. We are still negotiating. Very soon we will conclude it and the plant will start working.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. You do everything in fee now. Ghana Water.
And so you heard the Sector Minister for Works and Housing, the Honorable Gilbert Kenneth Ejay there, who is just concluding his tour of the Wija treatment plant, which actually started at the intake point here in Wija and then continued to the water treatment plant itself, where he's been inspecting a number of projects. For instance, the filtration intake of filters that some of which are under construction. Originally 12 of these filters, we are told by the engineers, are supposed to be working, but 4 went obsolete, leaving only 8. He said he's giving directive and that is currently underway. The major issue which has been raised from the intake point has been the invasion of water hyacinth plant on the Wija dam itself, which is getting closer to the intake point. The engineers indicated to us that if that should happen, the water hyacinth plant should continue to grow on the water and encroach the intake point. It will bring serious challenges to the Wija treatment plant. The managing director of the Ghana Water Limited, Adam Mutawakilu, indicated that the plan now is to see how they can build a bridge, some sort of a wedge to prevent the hyacinth plant from getting closer to the plant. But generally, the challenges has been encroachment of people on the Wija dam, as well as the lands of the treatment plant, landfills closer to the place, sun winning on the Wija dam, as well as areas close to the place, are the key challenges confronting the place, which is making water treatment costs going higher than it's supposed to be. The indication is that these problems is happening, especially with the encroachment, because the assembly in charge of this area has failed to live up to its expectation to prevent people from building at these unauthorized places, leading to the growing of this encroachment. They are also appealing to the general public to desist from building on such important locations or sites across around the Wija treatment plant. From the Wija treatment plant here in the Wija constituency, I am James Savage reporting for JoyNews.
Thank you for that update, James. To the Ashanti region now, where the mayor of the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly, Richard Ofori-Agyemang-Bwedi, has inspected ongoing inner road construction works at Daban New Site and at Atasemanso in the Inshayaso constituency, pledging significant improvements to road infrastructure across the Kumasi metropolis. The inspection forms part of an 8-kilometer inner road development project expected to enhance mobility and ease transportation challenges faced by residents. The following report has more.
The Kumasi mayor acknowledged many inner city roads remain in poor condition, making movement difficult for motorists and residents. He stressed that the ongoing projects demonstrate the government's commitment to transforming the city's infrastructure. According to him, the road improvement program forms part of a broader agenda to modernize Kumasi and improve the living conditions of residents.
This is Daban, one of Kumasi's most affluent middle-class residential areas, and it's been left for decades unattended to. So seeing these works go on, especially over the last 15 months, gives an indication that the president is really committed to the development of Kumasi and by extension the Ashanti region. What we plan to do is that after we having laid bitumen surface over this 6-kilometer period, we would then be engaging the Department of Urban Roads to see if we can have a package where we can then have asphalt overlaid on the bitumen surfaces as we get into the years ahead of it. So Kumasi can be assured that by the time that the president is done with his 4-year mandate, there will be a lot of facelift on a lot of infrastructure within the Kumasi metropolis.
The mayor was accompanied by officials from the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly and engineers from the Ashanti Regional Directorate of the Urban Roads. The Regional Director of Urban Roads, Nayim, who is serving as the project consultant, disclosed that the work will involve the asphalting of the 8-kilometer stretch of inner roads at Dabai New Site and at Atasemanso.
Kumasi Metropolis has a road network of about 1,700 kilometers. And it is our ambition that we improve the road condition mix in the next few years. The Daban New Site is one of the major suburbs within Kumasi Metropolis. And only 2 years ago, most of these roads here were not engineered. So the project has a total of about 6 kilometers. What we are doing right now is that the base is complete. We are compacting the base to ensure that we get the required densities before we can bring the bituminous surface. So I can promise you that in the next 2 weeks, in fact, next week, we will start with the bitumen surfacing of all the 6 kilometers.
He explained that the road project is significant in linking the Santasi and Melcombe Road, a development expected to improve traffic flow and accessibility for residents and commuters.
Our ambition is that we should be able to connect these local roads to Sokoban Wood Village, because this is in the center of Sokoban Wood Village and Santasi. There's a road just here. We want to put a culvert there. Once we are done, you can connect here to the lake, to the Melcombe Road, without going through that route of the other side.
In a related development, the mayor also inspected the Driasi new site inner roads in the Menshan North constituency. He instructed engineers and technical officers to commence the construction of drainage systems ahead of the full road construction to address flooding and improve the durability of the road infrastructure.
As you can see, this is developing a middle class area, and it's important that we come to provide the necessary infrastructure that would let living here be worth. And so I've come with my heads of department and my regional director of urban roads. What we want to do is that I want them to, as early as possible, to see what we can do to make sure that we can provide the appropriate road network for the community.
Joseph Obin's report for JoyNews.
And back here in Accra, a project aimed at saving lives and transforming vulnerable communities across Accra is steadily taking shape. The Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development Initiative, known as Garrett, is working to reshape flood-prone areas, improve drainage systems, and help residents adapt to the growing impacts of climate change. But not every community is benefiting from the intervention, at least not yet. On Climate Evidence today, we visit Odona, one of several urban poor communities still outside the reach of the Garrett project. Here, residents face the daily threat of rising heat waves and devastating floods. Yet, despite the challenges, there are signs that progress remains possible. Watch this.
In Accra's low-income communities like Nima and Alajo, the Garrett project is delivering real change. New drainage systems, cleared waterways and climate-smart designs are turning once flooded neighborhoods into safer, more resilient spaces. This is part of Garrett's core aim to protect lives and livelihoods through infrastructure upgrading in some of the most flood-prone areas of the city. But just a few kilometers away, in Odona, the story is very different. Here, over 3,000 residents were displaced this year alone after heavy rains drowned homes. For Mary Clotty, the flood became personal when her child fell ill and help was out of reach. It's a crisis of health, dignity and survival.
I couldn't come out with my child because when I stepped out, the water was up to my shoulders. Luckily, someone came to help me. I went to stand at the stairs and waited for the rain to drain till dawn before coming home. Unfortunately, I couldn't take my child to the hospital.
And when the rain stops, the heat takes over, turning teen kiosk into
The sun sometimes creates heat, and sometimes it doesn't. When the sun creates heat, the heat is very high, especially for those who sleep in stores because they do not have any windows. When that happens, we sometimes go and sit outside for a while before going back to sleep. Those with the rooms use mosquito nets and sleep inside. Heat breeds mosquitoes, and mosquitoes spread malaria. When there's an outbreak, people often suffer from skin rashes, especially those who are overweight.
According to research by the University of Ghana, informal communities like Odona face repeated disruption to health services. The study found that temperatures in Odona clinics were over 6 degrees hotter at night than national forecast suggests.
Yes, it affects health facilities.
The flood affects health facilities and hospitals in the area. Sometimes, the hospitals are located in flood-prone areas, so when it rains, they are readily affected. The rainwater can enter the hospitals, damaging properties like generators and other equipment. As a result, cholera and malaria outbreaks often occur, affecting the community. The situation is worsened because people are unable to access medical care at the hospitals, leading to increased suffering within the community. Sometimes, doctors and nurses can't come to work because their homes are flooded or the roads are impassable. This prevents them from reaching the hospital, further straining the already overwhelmed healthcare system.
The Garrett project is showing what's possible in communities where it's active. Resilience is rising. But for Odona and many others like it, time is running out. With climate change accelerating, replicating Garrett's success could be the difference between disaster and dignity.
This story is brought to you by JoyNews in partnership with CDK and Ghana, University of Ghana Center for Climate Change and Sustainability Studies, with funding from Claire R4I Opportunities Fund.
Well, let's talk about the 8th edition of the Showbiz Roundtable. And joining me today is a man whose voice and insight shape some of the most important conversations in Ghana's entertainment industry. He's the host of the GJA Best Radio Entertainment Show of the Year, Showbiz A to Z, and a respected force in the creative arts industry. He's here to walk us through the 8th Showbiz Roundtable, the special Ghana Month edition. He is Kwame Jadzi. Kwame, welcome to the program. I must say, you are sharply dressed today. You are overly dressed for this show. I told you offset, and I'm telling you on set.
Take your time.
Why?
I'm learning from you.
Please, please.
Don't
You're
do
giving
that.
us too much pressure.
I'm coming for your fugu for Saturday's event, yeah?
Anyway, let's talk about the Showbiz Roundtable. It's become a very important Showbiz event on the calendar.
Exactly.
The 8th edition, what should we expect?
We are throwing our spotlight on high life music. High life is our heritage, our culture. And as we are celebrating Ghana Month, we think it is wise for us to celebrate high life music and then look at how to preserve it some more. Because, you know, over the years, some of the people in the creative industry, especially the older folk in the high life fraternity, have said that the younger generation is drifting from high life music. And so what do we do to make sure that high life, which is our intangible heritage, is preserved? You remember just about last year, getting to the latter part of last year, UNESCO listed high life as intangible cultural heritage, which means that now no Nigerian or Liberian can come and say, oh, we own high life music. This is ours. But what are we doing to make sure that we promote high life and make sure the younger generation also incorporates high life in their music? So basically, this program is to make sure that we keep that legacy that has been given us by our forebears. Yeah, so that is it.
Who are going to be on the panel?
So Mr. Simons is Musica president. He's going to be on the panel. We understand Musica has rolled out a number of activities to help this cause. And so he will be sharing with us some of these projects. And then we have Professor John Collins, who is an ethnomusicologist. He's been with us for so many years, music producer. He has a Boko band. He's written a lot about our music, journalist to lecturing about Ghanaian music and all. And so he will also be on the panel. We have Amandiba, which literally translates as a custom child. Amandiba is somebody who uses a lot of our indigenous Ghanaian rhythms in his music, Ogbejeke, for example, and other songs. And so he also typifies what we call Ghanaian music and high life music for that matter. So he'll also be on the panel. We have B.B. Hammond, Jonas B.B. Hammond. When we talk about high life music or music in general, production is basically what determines the genre. It is the major, it is the soul of the genre. And so if we're talking about high life music, we can't do that without music producers. And BB is one person who will help us do that. Then there is another amazing gentleman, an audio engineer, Grammy-nominated audio engineer in the person of Kofi Boakye and Beats Menace. He's also on the bill. And then Adina. Adina is going to represent the new generation. And you see, most times when we compare the new generation to the older people, we tend to think that high life is dead. And we ask questions. Why aren't we seeing a lot more younger people or young people get into that field? Adina is one artist who has over the time gotten into that side of music, even though sometimes she does Afro beats and experiment with other rhythms. Mainly she does high life music, so she will be on the panel to represent the young generation, the new generation of musicians. And then keynote speaker is Mamefua Wajotu, GTA CEO. She will be also on the show. Yeah.
I'm glad that you brought Adina on, because it appears that most of the time we tend to think that high life is dead, because when you talk about high life, it's still the older generation that people start mentioning their name. How would you envision this conversation will contribute to preserving high life?
Great. So in the first place, we want to educate people on what really high life is. Because high life is not just one sound. High life comes in various forms, from the palm wine to the brass band, or what they call the regimental music, to the dance band music, to guitar band, then all the way to bugger high life, to contemporary high life, and then even some people even consider hip life as an offshoot of high life music. And so we look at all the types or sub-genres of high life music, and by the end of the program, anybody watching or listening would know what high life is and know whether what they're doing is high life or not. Because a lot of the young people are doing high life, but they have decided to name it something else. Okay, so if these gurus come on set, they will let us know what is high life. We have a segment called the High Life Litmus Test, where we play a number of songs for them to tell us whether they are high life or not.
Or could it be that the musicians themselves don't even know that what they're doing is high life?
Okay, some of them don't know. There are others who also want to associate themselves with the popular or the craze, let me say that. So Afrobeats, they think, is the new thing. And so if the people from Nigeria and other parts are selling their songs and their music with Afrobeats, they want to just get linked to that so that they also get on the same pedestal. But we think that high life, celebrating 100 years, we need to embrace it and then push it some more.
Finally, how do viewers get to take part? Tell us.
Okay, so there will be a studio audience, but the audience in the studio is made up of industry stakeholders, and this is strictly by invitation. And then you can watch, we'll be live on Joy 99.7 FM, we'll be live on Joy Prime Television, and then JoyNews as well.
Right. It should be interesting. Kwame Dazi, thank you very much. Well, let's bring you more stories this evening, because the Akufo-Addo-led administration is facing serious questions over missing food supplies after Parliament was told that 10,000 metric tons of rice purchased to mitigate dry spell for 2024 remain unaccounted for. Deputy Minister for Finance Thomas Ampem-Nyako revealed on the floor of the House that while the government paid for 34,000 metric tons of rice in 2024, only 24,000 metric tons reached the Ministry of Food and Agric for distribution. The audit also exposed irregularities in maize supply, with a contractor allegedly delivering just 11,900 metric tons of a 100,000 metric tons order worth over 700 million Ghana cedis, despite submission of official receipt documents certified by the ministry's internal auditor. Lawmakers say the revelations raise concerns over oversight and accountability in the management of government food interventions. On our screens now are teased out portions of the report. Have a look. And there you have it, according to the Deputy Finance Minister who was in Parliament yesterday. This is the audit of the 2024 NDA payables by the Finance Ministry. The entire budget is supposed to be 68.7 billion Ghana cedis. The ones that they describe as valid is 45.4 billion Ghana cedis, which is 66% of the entire budget. The rejected portion is 8 billion cedis, which accounts for 11%, and 13.2 billion Ghana cedis, accounting for 19% of the total budget, is pending. And the reasons for the rejected claims: one is that there's no supported documentation. Two, there's a lot of duplication. Three, there's a lot of overstatements. Four, there are falsified documents. And five, in some instances, there is no work done. Let's go on to Zoom right now and speak to anti-corruption crusader Edem Senanu for more. Edem, what's your initial reaction to these malfeasances that the Finance Ministry have brought to bear?
Well, first of all, the lack of a conduct of public officers law with sanctions. I think that we've not been punitive enough in the past, and so the impunity continues unabated, and it is reflecting in every subsequent years.
Do I still have Edem Senanu on the line? Do I have Edem Senanu?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. I would want you to speak a bit louder for me.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll say my initial reaction simply is that the lack of a law to sanction public officers is showing up over and over again. If we had been demonstrating a very comprehensive, robust response in terms of sanctioning individuals in the public sector who do these things, it should be reducing. I don't think we've had enough instances publicly made where such actions have resulted in serious punitive actions. And that's my first reaction, that the impunity appears to be continuing unabated.
Do you feel that those found culpable will be brought to justice?
I don't think so. That's my worry. I think that there's an urgent need to pass the Conduct of Public Officers Bill. In fact, it probably is the reason why it's not getting passed, because individuals who understand the import of passing that law are reticent to making sure that it gets passed. Otherwise, we would have clear sanctions, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, for whichever actions, and things like this where public officers intentionally attempt to get away with no work done and payments done, or falsified documents, or, I mean, these things ought not to continue the way they seem to be continuing within our country.
Adam, why do you feel justice will not be served?
I'm not quite sure that the legal framework is in place at the end of the day. You see, we've had these reports over and over again. If the reports were translating into tangible actions, over time, people would know that you can't do A and get away with it. Therefore, you would see a reduction in the trend. Because you don't have a clearly spelled out law that allows sanctions of these, we talk about it as findings, then they will attempt to do some retrieval, and at best they get a certain portion of it. Nothing happens that actually serves as a strong deterrent, and that's the challenge.
Edem Senanu is an anti-corruption crusader. Thank you for your time this evening. Europe has overtaken Asia and the Middle East as the largest importer of weapons, marking a major shift in global defense dynamics. New findings show European states sharply expanded their weapon purchases between 2021 and 25, driven largely by the security fallout of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and renewed push to strengthen national defense. DW correspondent Thomas Paro is joining us now from Berlin with more. Thomas, Europe is now the world's biggest recipient of arms. What impact is this shift having in Europe?
It is indeed a major shift as Europe becomes the major destination for large arms in the world, overtaking Asia, overtaking also the Middle East. And it's no surprise that the main driver behind this shift, the main driver behind this trend is the war in Ukraine, and in particular, two reasons related to the war in Ukraine. First, obviously, support towards Ukraine. European countries, since the beginning of the war, have said they will support Ukraine not only politically and economically, but also militarily. So that means that they've been sending different types of weapons to Ukraine. But second, European countries have realized that they have to step up their own defense procurement, their own defense spending when it comes to also making sure that their own militaries are strong. They see a perceived threat from several countries, in particular from Russia, and as such, countries like Germany, like Italy, like France have stepped up their own defense to try and make sure their own militaries are strong. These are the two drivers behind this trend that now positions Europe as the main recipient of large arms in the world.
With Europe increasingly reliant on outside suppliers, especially in the United States, how is the continent balancing immediate needs with long-term ambitions for more defense independence?
You mentioned a very important point, because the fact that Europe is trying to spend more on defense does not necessarily mean that Europe is trying to spend more on defense by buying only European weapons. In fact, Europe is indeed reliant on outside suppliers, in particular the United States. The United States is the biggest exporter of weapons in the world, and it has increased its spending towards Europe, its exports towards Europe. So that's one side of the situation here in Europe, the fact that they've understood that for the short term specifically, they need to buy weapons that are already available. And most of those weapons that are already available come specifically from the United States. But at the same time, European leaders have understood that they have to work together when it comes to common procurement, for example, to common military projects as well. One example is air defense. And that's where at the same time, for the medium and long term, they are trying to buy more European and produce more European weapons as well. So you have those two elements that work hand in hand. The short term, which is basically buying weapons that are already available. The medium to long term, which is trying to become more independent from countries like the United States.
And Thomas, looking specifically at Germany, which has stepped up both its military purchases and its role as a major arms exporter, how is Berlin positioning itself, and is there any historical sensitivity around this?
When the war in Ukraine began, that marked a major shift also here in Germany. It was a shift that was described as a Zeitenwende, a change of era, and that basically meant that Germany, and in particular the German government back then, was willing to leave behind an era of careful diplomacy, to step up its defense procurements, to make sure that its military, the Bundeswehr, was more active internationally and was better prepared to deal with international conflicts. And that's what behind Germany is also increasing its spending on defense. At the same time, however, Germany has been for a long time a major exporter of weapons, and that's also something that has increased. No surprise, most of Germany's weapons, or a large amount of Germany's weapons, go to Ukraine. So that means that Germany's element of arms export is also growing. You ask about the sensitivities, and indeed it is a very controversial topic here in Germany. On the one hand, because of Germany's history, there is a certain reluctance of having a strong Germany in the international arena when it comes to that military component. But on the other hand, there is an understanding, especially among politicians, that Germany needs to play a more important role internationally, not only when it comes to diplomacy, but also when it comes to defense and the military. So you have, again, different views on this very important, but at the same time, very controversial topic.
And what does the report say about the role played by African countries?
Indeed, if you look at the global arms trade, Africa is actually a relatively small player, but with some relevant regional dynamics. Overall, African countries have been importing fewer major weapons in recent years. And in fact, arms imports across the continent dropped by around 40% if you compare the period 2016 to 2020 and 2021 to 2025. These were the periods that were analysed by SIPRI, the Stockholm-based organisation that regularly tracks arms shipments around the world and that produced this latest report. Now, Africa only received around 4% of major arms. That's not a lot compared to over 30% for Europe or 26% for the Middle East. That said, a handful of African countries still drive the trend. Morocco and Algeria dominate the continent's arms purchases, and their long-standing rivalry is a big reason why. Morocco has stepped up its imports up about 12%, buying weapons from partners like the United States and Spain. Algeria, on the other hand, appears to have sharply reduced its official imports, but there's caution here because Algeria is very secretive about its procurement, so analysts suspect the real numbers may be actually higher. Now, if we look at sub-Saharan Africa, the picture is different. Arms imports there actually increased by about 13% over the same period. Nigeria, Senegal, Mali were the top buyers, and China emerged as the leading supplier to the region, followed by Russia and Turkey. One of the challenges in understanding Africa's role in the global arms trade is that there's little verified information about many of the transfers, especially those in conflict zones. So, Africa is not a major global arms market in terms of volume, but it remains a critical region for understanding how weapons circulate, especially in areas where conflict, secrecy, and geopolitical competition intersect.
Thomas Sparrow is with our partners DW in Berlin. Thank you, Thomas. And that's it for The Pulse this evening. Thank you very much for your time. My name is Kenneth Jesse. The news team returns at 7 p.m. with News Prime. Have a good evening.